Just moving now to hear from Jane King and Alana Part to talk about museums and galleries, the cornerstones of the heritage ecosystem. Jane King has worked in the museums, galleries and visual arts sector for more than 20 years across a number of major institutions and key organisations, including the State Library, ArtSource and John Curtin Gallery. She's also been on the boards of the Chamber of Arts and Culture, Future Now, North Midlands Project and AMaGA. Alana is the curator of the Wanneroo Regional Museum at the City of Wanneroo and the president of AMaGA Emerging Professionals National Network and vice president of the WA branch. So welcome.
Good afternoon. So I acknowledge that we're speaking today on the unceded lands of the Whadjuk, and I pay my respects to their elders, past and present. So my name is Alana Part. I'm president of the AMaGA Emerging Professionals National Network, vice president of AMaGA WA, and curator of Wanneroo Regional Museum, which some of you may have visited. So in this session, hang on, let me get organised. We will speak a little bit about the advocacy work that AMaGA WA has been doing, our manifesto, Cherish, and how this links to the Creative WA 10-year strategy and our new advocacy toolkit resource. In our panel discussion, we'll explore in more detail what we see as the issues around skills and workforce development across our sector, as all ecosystems need nurturing. This is a slightly reworked session from the program, as we're extremely grateful for the opportunity to speak to the whole audience here today. It's given us the chance to speak candidly about some challenges and opportunities within the sector. So some context on us. Thanks, Jane. So AMaGA WA is a volunteer-led committee that works alongside one project-based staff member, shout out to Nat, who oversees Collections WA. We support cultural, creative and community collecting organisations across Western Australia, and we connect and empower these organisations to care for our cultural assets using national guidelines, frameworks and resources, such as the National Standards for Australian Museums and Galleries and First Peoples, a roadmap for enhancing Indigenous engagement in museums and galleries. Our member organisations preserve and share the diverse stories of our communities, past and present, and we contribute to shaping WA's unique identity and sense of belonging. Thanks. In our role as advocates for WA's cultural sector, and with 2029 rapidly approaching, we've spent the last 18 months or so developing a manifesto, Cherish, which encapsulates our vision for the future of museums, galleries and collections, and the collection sector. We identify the current challenges, what's at stake, and the actions needed to shape the future. You can read the full version of this on the WA branch page of amaga.org.au, or there is a QR code at the end of the presentation you can scan. So I'll now pass over to Jane.
Thanks, Alana. Yep, Jane King, for those of you who don't know me. And I would also like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the unceded lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. The launch of Creative WA at the end of last year, and if you haven't read it, you really must, because it is a milestone document, and anyone from the departments here, I just want to praise you again for delivering that document, because it isn't just a Department of Local Government, Sport and Creative Industries, as it was about to change, a strategy. It's actually a whole of government strategy, and so throughout it is threaded lots of links to heritage, to planning, to the natural environment, to tourism, to education, to health and well-being. So it's a very significant document, and lots of what we've spoken about already at this conference, threads of that are throughout it. So I really would encourage you to look at it. So we took, as Alana just explained, we had developed our manifesto, which for us is our vision of what the museum and gallery sector could look like with the right resources and investment over the next few years, and using sort of 2029 just as a sort of North Star, I suppose, to guide us towards a time in the future where we envisaged a much stronger sector. And so we took, when this was released, we took our manifesto and lined it up against the strategic priorities of Creative WA. And amazingly, it kind of lined up pretty well. And so we had, I think, 12 or 13 key actions or things we think need to be done. And we've been able to sort of kind of condense these into these 3 overarching objectives. And they line up with the 3 strategic priorities of Creative WA, which are to strengthen the creative, cultural and arts sector, to share stories and celebrate place, of course, and increase access and participation of all West Australians. So they're pretty kind of motherhood statements, I suppose, but they're very meaningful for particularly our sector. So the first big thing we've identified is that we urgently need a workforce development plan for our whole sector, and that includes everything that we've talked about this morning, not beyond just museums and galleries. There's our whole sector. We need to get started on delivering skills training and professional development in order to build that capacity, because it's worrisome at the moment. Secondly, we need to start now to put in place the resources and support required to ready the sector to meet the community expectations of 2029. Now, I'm not prescribing what they are, I'm just saying we need to be in readiness and not be reactive. And thirdly, we need a statewide map and gap for the sector, similar to that was done a few years ago for the regional gallery network, and we have seen how the increased investment that has flown as a result of that analysis has flown to that part of our sector and has had dramatic results. There is a 4th pillar priority for us, and that's the ongoing sustainable funding of our project Collections WA, which kind of really sits under that share stories and celebrate place. We think that is a tool that could dramatically work across all our sectors to enable that sort of digital storytelling and sharing of stories. So alongside that piece of work, developing the manifesto, because of the process that we've gone through, we realised that actually we are not the only advocates for the work that is done in museums and galleries. Every individual who works in the sector and every organisation in the sector needs to be their own advocate, and in being their own advocate are advocating for the sector. So we've developed an advocacy toolkit, which we launched about 6 weeks ago. It's called Every Story Counts, and it can be downloaded from our website amaga.org.au. And I encourage you all to have a look at it and make use of it. It's very user-friendly, it's not frightening, and we're trying to kind of destigmatise the use of the word advocacy. Advocacy is just telling your own story about the impact that you're having. We've also, just a bit of a pitch, we're delivering some online webinars that start this Friday. So if you're interested, you can sign up for those. There'll be 4 in total, and each one goes through a separate part of the toolkit. So, next slide. Yeah, so returning to those kind of our big vision, we want to kind of just focus for the next sort of 15, 20 minutes or so on the skills gap in our sector, and we think this is the most important priority, because without the people resources out there, you can't actually do all the other things that need to be done. So we're going to delve a little further in that, and we have invited Alana will participate, but also we've invited two other people to just come and join us in a little panel discussion. So I'd like to welcome Anne-Marie Ryan, from the Industry Development Manager for the Creative Industries, from Future Now Creative and Leisure Industries Training Council. So thank you, Anne-Marie. We'll do what they did before, and we'll just sort of assemble at the front here. And secondly, Julianne Mackay, who's the General Manager of Art on the Move, and they are responsible for delivering the Regional Exhibitions Touring Boost. And I think, and that's the kind of model that we're kind of advocating for the rest of the sort of museums and gallery space. And Alana is on the panel representing the Emerging Professionals Network, but also in her role as curator at the Wanneroo Museum. So she works within local government in a local government museum. So I'm just going to grab the other mic and come down there because I don't want to be looking down on people. And I've got some questions for our panellists. Thank you. Is that working? Yep. Okay. Thank you, guys, and thank you for participating in this. So I'm going to address my first question to Anne-Marie. So as I talked about Creative WA, and in that document, they have actually identified that the skills gap present in across the GLAM sector, in the current workforce, that there are some real serious gaps, and in the document it does say that one of the initiatives is to establish cross-department partnerships to support and develop our workforce, and building the capacity of sector organisations to create more secure long-term jobs. So it's clearly identified in there that this needs to happen. Our experience indicates that our sector has critical skills and resource shortages, and with 2029 on the horizon and the expected demands that may place on our sector's resources, we need to prioritise this. So Anne-Marie, your role at Future Now has given you a unique insight into our sector's training and workforce development issues over many years. What are the biggest workforce challenges and opportunities facing WA's heritage sector right now?
Okay, hi everybody. So, am I on? Thanks, Jane. Yeah, I have been with Future Now for 10 years, and we're one of 8 councils across the state that represent all of the different industries. Really our focus is workforce development, skills, training, labour markets and all of that sort of thing, and creative and cultural industries sit with me. So what I would say is that what is mostly the challenges that are facing in the industry now are the same challenges that were facing the industry 10 years ago and ever since. So, and I totally agree with Jane that you have a really unique leverage point right now to get involved in that advocacy because of Creative WA. Because of the 2 elections we've just had, everyone's sort of in position and ready to go. 2029, and also the Aboriginal Cultural Centre coming online, so it's a really good time strategically to be talking about this. Those challenges, those ongoing challenges, are primarily, and this isn't a comment on the assembled parties, but an ageing workforce. And that just means people are leaving the workforce through retirement at a greater speed than we're attracting people back in. So we need an attraction strategy to bring more people into the sector. And what we call thin markets. So thin markets means you've got a relatively small workforce of very skilled people who need really specific upskilling. So trying to address that, trying to get all of the parties and all of your ducks lined up in an affordable and accessible way is really difficult compared to... Apologies. Could you hear me? That's really difficult compared to if it's nurses or bricklayers, that sort of thing. So those are the reasons that it has been so difficult to address these wicked challenges. And they're the reasons that we have the other problem, which is we've had no museum studies in WA for over 10 years now, and very little local applicable training and education pathways, which means people either have to travel, go online, and that just means it's not accessible to the broadest possible population. So I think opportunities then, I can either look at you or my notes, I can't do both. So what I did want to talk about is that one of the sectors we're working really closely with, that's, I say we, that's Future Now, but also the DLGSC and Department of Training and Workforce Development is Screen. And what we have there is a very successful functioning model of workforce development and industry consultation that I think we could just copy. It'd be a really, and there's buy-in already for that model now, so that would be a really great way for us to just hit the ground running. I think we definitely need to improve collaboration. So there has been a lot of strategic talk over the years, and there has been a lot of effort on the ground level with TAFE and stakeholders like that to address these issues. But there's a missing piece in the middle where we take all of that strategic thought and fund it properly, and actually get some sustainable pathways in place. So I think there's an opportunity there. And then what we want to end up with is skill sets, for instance. So that's quick stackable training and upskilling in areas like climate control of collections, or climate resilience more broadly, co-curation, community storytelling, and also I think we're looking at a specific Aboriginal curation pathway as well. And in terms of immediate actions I think we could be arguing to have critical occupations on the state priority occupation list. I don't think I have a lot of time to talk about that right now, but that feeds into a whole lot of potential funding pathways. And I would really love to see if we can follow that Screen strategy, a dedicated person at DLGSC, or as DSITS as it's going to be, overseeing an entire workforce project.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Julianne, now to you. So Art on the Move, one of your core kind of responsibilities is focusing on capacity building across our regional galleries. So in building a stronger regional workforce to support touring exhibitions, what are the key skills we need to prioritise, and how can we support artists, curators, historians, creatives to develop them effectively?
Okay, good afternoon. I'd like to preface this that I'll probably always refer to visual arts or regional artists, but we're definitely not in isolation. That just happens to be where I'm working at the moment, so this does refer to the sector at large. Everybody in this room can play a role. In 2024, Art on the Move had launched a key piece of documentation around the strategies for touring exhibitions, and it identified a myriad of challenges within the sector. Beyond the infrastructure problems that we always talk about, climate control, those sorts of things that take a long time to kind of address and a lot of money, we had a look at some other ways that we could all work as a sector and as individuals, organisations to build stronger relationships in the regions and also within WA. Co-design programs to ensure that training and touring reflected the local priorities. So we've undertaken a lot of consultation with regional communities about their needs and wants, which has been key to help us develop our programs moving forward. And this has been able to embed the community voices in how we develop these programs, leading to sort of co-ownership and deeper engagement, which is essential for developing the workforce in small regional and remote areas. It seems obvious, but it doesn't seem to happen very often. Working with different partners and stakeholders. I think people can get really bogged down in their own institutions, their own organisations. We all sometimes take a siloed approach. Just by sharing resources and working with organisations and identifying people out in the regions and also locally across the state is going to explore reaches for communities to develop skills, sharing resources and networks, which is going to allow for metro-based mentors and national touring circuits to be expanded. So whether that's exhibitions regionally, museum-led visual arts, it will allow for that to expand. And the cross-sector collaboration, which is going to add a lot of value to skill building and enriches the scope of the creative roles that we can develop out in the regions. Art on the Move has developed a lot of pilot training programs. We've done work out on country in Shark Bay, World Heritage sites, placing artists out in the community to work with Aboriginal rangers on country and learning about different ways and real world experiences. Just scroll through quickly, sorry. Developing traineeship models, which touches on what you've said. There's a great deal of scope there. New traineeships aiming to build long-term roles, so not just a short-term fix. It'll develop skills across the sector, and hopefully then ensuring a sort of sustainable creative workforce. We're also looking at targeting training for community-based artists, which is basically prioritising skills in facilitation, logistics and community engagement, which ensures that our artists, curators, creatives are ready for the future, particularly planning for the upcoming bicentenary.
Thanks, Julianne. There's a lot there. There's a lot going on. But like you said, you both said there's a lot of opportunities. So, who am I up to? Alana. So, what are your thoughts on the needs of emerging professionals in our sector? And you've heard some of the responses already. And what would you like to see, and particularly across the local government network where you're embedded, to support skills and career development?
I think firstly I wanted to mention, like a lot of people in this room, I got my start here in the sector in WA, so I think it's given me a bit of an understanding of the difference that structured support and opportunity can make. So some of the challenges that face both emerging professionals and sector colleagues are, drum roll, so limited career progression and job security. So entry-level roles in our sector are often short-term contract or casual, with very few structured development pathways to move beyond them. Local government museums and galleries often play a unique, often under-acknowledged role in shaping careers. These spaces are where many professionals get their start, but a start is often all it gets them. There is a lack of WA-based sector-specific training. So, as Anne-Marie said, WA has not had a museum studies tertiary qualification in over a decade. I know that because I was part of the last cohort that went through, showing my age now. Training is mostly accessed via better resourced eastern states counterparts such as AMaGA Victoria or Museums and Galleries New South Wales, but this training is sporadic, often online only, and aimed at resolving skill shortages and knowledge gaps in their own states, not ours. Regional relevance in training is crucial in addressing the complex and difficult histories of the state, and for our sector to develop a nuanced and specific understanding of our collections, our practice and the communities that we serve. For those beginning or working careers across front of house, education and collections, to name just a few, there is no practical training available. There is a skills ceiling in WA that doesn't just affect emerging professionals, it's the whole sector. In terms of opportunities, we need to rebuild training capacity in WA. We need a dedicated WA-based museum studies offering, ideally co-designed with those working in cultural institutions and inclusive of First Nations knowledge systems, regional context and practical hands-on experience. We need resourcing that supports paid internships, traineeships, and graduate placements in museums and galleries, and not just one-offs. They need to be embedded and recognised as part of a workforce strategy. One more. Last piece of paper, I swear. There's a strong appetite for cross-institutional skill sharing and support, particularly from those who feel isolated in small teams. Let's formalise mentoring across institutions, linking early career professionals in museums with experienced peers in other organisations. There should also be subsidised or free access to broader training in cultural awareness, inclusion and participation. If we want a diverse, skilled and resilient workforce, we need to actively create the conditions for people to enter, grow and stay in our sector.
Thanks, Alana. That's a lot. Thank you. Look, I think we've actually got time for a couple of questions. Are you okay with that? So just to wrap up, there's some. Our panellists have made some really important points. You know, we will be at the coalface in 2029, interpreting, presenting and challenging West Australian history. This will require cultural sensitivity, community engagement and robust storytelling, especially around First Nation voices and shared histories. The current gaps really raise concerns about our readiness for that, and the lack of WA-based specific qualifications certainly is leaving us under resources. And without coordinated action, we risk burnout, missed opportunities and an underrepresentation of diverse perspectives. So we believe that investment right now is really important. And we do have time for a couple of questions. Where are you?
I'll manage that. Yep, right behind you. Question, is AMaGA WA also working together with Volunteering WA?
I can answer that. Yes, we are. Our issue really is that we're a volunteer board and we have no staff. So everything we do after our full-time day job in the sector. So it is our ability to deliver very much at all at the moment is very restricted. However, we do have a relationship with Volunteering WA. I'm pretty sure we're actually a member and access to their research. And we have been in conversation with Curtin University, where there is a specialist research area in volunteering, to perhaps set up a project to look at our sector better. But definitely volunteering is a big issue for us, and every volunteering is everywhere there's a heavy reliance on volunteering, it's an issue because of course the changing nature of volunteers and the fact that we're just not replacing the ones that are literally dying. So
okay,
yes.
Thanks, Jane. We've got one question from the audience and we've got about half a minute, so we'll take that question and any other questions that have come through, and there's a few. If you could catch up with Alana and Jane in the lunch break. Thanks. Yes.
Thank you very much indeed. I just want to make a point that we've heard about AMaGA and we've heard about GLAM, and they're two different things. I just wanted to ask or make 2 points. One is that I've been around long enough to have been involved in all the museum training that went on in the 90s, so there's a real gap there. But I'm also involved at Curtin University, which runs courses in collection management, libraries and archives, so that there are courses around, but they're not always geared just to museums. The other question I really have for everybody is, when you're talking about collaboration, what sort of collaboration do you have with the Australian Society of Archivists and the Australian Library and Information Association? Because across the heritage sector, you cannot avoid the fact that documentary heritage is actually one of the foundation supports on which all heritage work in some way or other relies. So could you just talk a bit about your collaborations with across the sector?
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that as well. I guess we do collaborate. I mean, I presented. We had a big GLAM gathering towards the end of last year where archivists, librarians, digital records managers, a whole host of different organisations came together to talk about our collective issues. As you've pointed out, there's a lot of overlap. I guess in terms of any really formal projects or anything like that to do, there really aren't any on the go, and largely because every one of those people in the room on that day was a volunteer, and with volunteer committees. So the Association of Archivists, the same as us, we're all volunteers. The AMaGA WA, they're all volunteers. The AICCM, they're all volunteer, their capacity in that. So it's just, it's just a matter of lack of resources and lack of time, not a lack of will, and not a lack of knowing who these people are and being in touch with them from time to time when we can.
Great. Thanks, Jane. Can I suggest that might be a good opportunity if everyone's in the room that needs to be to catch up in the lunch break and maybe look at what some of those opportunities might be. That'd be terrific. All right, thanks very much. We can give a round of applause for the panel.